All right, so we'll call this meeting of the Boylston Regional School Committee to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start our meeting off with our superintendent search finalist announcement with Ms. Tracy Novick from MASC and Lauren Ara-Killian, the chair of the search screening committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to turn the initial part of the report over to Ms. Ara-Killian, who will be reporting out on behalf of the search committee that she chaired. While she's doing that, I'm going to pass around the paper map for you.
Thank you for your time this evening. Those appointed to be part of the superintendent search committee met for training on October 15th. At this training, all were trained in open meeting law, conflict of interest, and confidentiality. All signed commitments to confidentiality. Those who are employees of the district also completed and signed their declarations to adhere to the state conflict of interest law. This paperwork is on file with the district as required. Applications closed on October 24th. 18 applicants were received. The search committee reviewed the confidential applications independently on October 25th and the 26th. The search committee met on October 27th. At this meeting, I was elected chair of the search committee by my colleagues. The search committee brainstormed and agreed upon question topics. Moving into executive session, the committee reviewed the applicants and agreed upon 6 semifinalists to interview. The search committee met in executive session on November 3rd, 4th, and 6th to conduct semifinalist interviews. After the final interview, they deliberated in executive session regarding the selection of finalists. As a result of those deliberations, the search committee unanimously recommends the following 4 finalists to you. Brent Conway, Assistant Superintendent of the Pentucket Regional School District. Dana Labb, the Assistant Superintendent of the Harvard Public Schools. Tim McCormick, Superintendent of North Brookfield Public Schools. And Joni Menard, Assistant Superintendent of Boylston Public Schools. Having been contacted by Ms. Novick, all finalists have agreed to move forward in the search. They are planning to spend a day each in the district, as well as planning a schedule for a visit for members of the school committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So Tracy, is there anything we need to know going forward?
Certainly. So just a couple of things. I've given you a paper copy of the memo. That is now public because you have received it. That does include a brief biographical summary of each of the candidates. The school committee, as well as the district, will also be receiving from me, as soon as we get done with this part of the meeting, a copy of their application, their CV, and their personal statement. It will be redacted, and that's just redacted as to telephone numbers and addresses, because of course, if you have it, it's public. That is something, by the way, this school committee, the school district is free to actually share publicly. Might be worth sharing. I have been in contact, as mentioned, with the finalists. They are in the process of actually scheduling days for you all. So my first charge for the members of the committee, and I know that you knew this was coming, I do not need it right at this moment, but within the next 24 hours, if you can let me know of your availability for visiting the finalist districts, that would be during a school day, during the week of the 17th and or those first 2 days of the week of Thanksgiving, the 24th and 25th. I will take any availability you have, be honest about it, and we will put together non-quorum groups to go visit those districts. They are in the process of doing that now. And frankly, the sooner I have that information from you, the sooner we can get it scheduled. We're actually very close to having the finalists all scheduled in terms of their visit to the district. I still have one feedback loop to complete with one of the finalists, and then I'll be able to share that with you all. Ms. Fortune and Mr. Ganem have already been working on sort of what a schedule would look like. The plan, of course, is that they would visit every school in the district. They would spend time in central office, and then there would be a public meet and greet for each of the candidates. And again, this is all taking place not this week, but next week, and then potentially, if necessary, the first 2 days of the week of Thanksgiving. Things that I need from you beyond the availability. You will have 3 references for each of them that are available for telephone calls. Again, I do not need to know this evening, but something for you all to sort out amongst yourself is how you want to handle it. One recommendation I do have is that if any of you know that you won't be available to visit a district because you simply cannot be available during the day, that's a wonderful thing to outsource to that person and say, could you please go make all these phone calls? And that could be the report back. That is, again, it's not something I need to know now, and it's also not subject to public deliberation, so it's something where we can work it out via email. There are two questions that we do need to deal with this evening. One is that the Attorney General has determined that the creation of questions is subject to open meeting law, needs to be done in public session. So I will be asking, and again, I don't need to decide this today, but I want to put you on notice. I will be asking for you to figure out a time when we can get together. It can be even electronically. This does not have to be long, for you to agree to what topics you want to cover during the interview, because that is something that needs to be done in public session. We can then sort out in that meeting who is covering which topic, and then we can assemble the interview from there, okay? So again, that's something that would need to be happening pretty much between now and Thanksgiving, so because you are scheduled for interviews that first week of December. I know that you didn't know how many finalists you have, so I'm not going to put you on the spot this evening as to how you want to handle it in terms of evenings for that week of December, as to whether or not you want to try to do 4 in one evening or you want to do them over 2. Again, don't need to know that now, but realize that that's a conversation that needs to be had in terms of scheduling. Remember, scheduling is an exception to open meeting law. That is something where we can send around an email and say who is available which evenings and figure it out from there. And then the question that I would have, that I would be interested in getting feedback from you this evening is, not uncommonly, school committees do want some feedback from the community as a result of the visiting days. It is not a requirement, it's up to you. I can easily put together a form that would then be available and actually be part of the announcement. And I want to give Ms. Fortune a lot of credit here. She was already sort of onto that in terms of, are we doing this and how do we make sure it's ready? We would make it part of the announcement of the days that they're coming and make the link available to the public once you have met someone as part of that visit. It would be a standard form, and what I would recommend that we do is we actually make it reflective of what you actually posted in terms of what you wanted for a superintendent. So does this person demonstrate X, Y, Z? Again, within the experience that they had, but that is a useful thing. So I'd be interested in that, and also I'm happy to take any questions that you have, Mr. Chair.
Does anybody have any questions for Tracy?
Tracy, what was the week in December?
So you are scheduled for interviews the first week of December.
Okay.
And we suspect those will be in the evening? Or
I would recommend that they be in the evening, mostly because this is obviously a matter of public interest. Yeah,
And they're all obviously open.
they are open to the public, yes.
The only other thing I'd like to add is that week that they're coming to visit our district, we're coordinating, Jen, myself, with Tracy and the candidates, obviously, but also how it impacts all these people to our right? What their day look like, what they have scheduled for their, because if you have 4 different people coming in throughout that week, we're really trying to be mindful of that. We had a quick meeting this morning, looking at days that work really well. We gave that information to Tracy, what days don't work so well for her. We have a lot of things going on, even here at the high school with plays, and we have strategic plans. So there's a lot going on. We're just trying to coordinate, as everyone knows, scheduling all of these people's schedules with our candidates, but Jen and I are working with all of them on that as well too, and Tracy, obviously.
Thanks. And then, so the question about a feedback form.
Yes.
Fine with it.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I'll plan on putting that together, and what I'll do then is I will share that with Ms. Fortune, and it will be part of the announcement essentially that goes out to the district of these are the days each of the candidates are visiting. Again, we're very close on that. I expect probably by sometime tomorrow we'll actually know that. And then this is the link, and I mean, the first question then becomes, here, which candidate did you see? So we use the same form, and people can fill it out more than once.
So when they visit our district, we don't have to, the school committee doesn't have to do anything.
I very much appreciate that. So in fact, it would be wonderful if you did not. Now, you certainly can attend the meet and greet, although this is one where you want to be sort of on the outskirts rather than, right? But no, and in fact, what I spoke with Mr. Ganem about this when we initially were setting this up. It is a good experience for them to sort of be doing the circumnavigation a little on their own in terms of, so the principals or whoever it is that they arrange will presumably be taking them around the building, making introductions and so forth. But this isn't one where they sort of have a minder all day long. They have a little bit more of a maybe real experience at the district as a result of that. And similarly, when you visit the district, you may see the candidate, they may initially greet you, but they are not with you for the day. This is very much your meeting their people. And you know, sometimes people say, well, this sounds like something that's going to be a dog and pony show. I would tell you that in my experience, both as a field director and also as my personal experience as a former school committee member, you have some very real conversations on those days. So I think they're very valuable.
Just one last thing, when they're coming to visit in district, we're rotating the schedule, so they're not always at 9 o'clock going to Berlin, 9 o'clock going to Boylston, right? So we're just trying, so it doesn't always hit lunchtime at the Honto, right? So we're really, Jen and I are really trying to make that schedule so it works for everybody here on the right-hand side as well, too. And just the last thing I'd ask is to school committee, would you like Jen and I to post this on the district website, the candidate final list? Sure. I'm okay with that?
Yes,
That's
thank
important to
you.
get this
Absolutely.
information out.
All right. Anything else, Tracy?
I want to just represent to you all that the search committee, as you know, obviously worked very hard. Certainly present members included, those of you who want it, but and they were really a very collegial group. I think they actually did you proud, and so I want to thank them for their. They were on top of things, they were on time, and they also were very good humored and really were very united in working hard for the district. So I wanted to make sure that you heard that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like some of them are in the room right now behind us.
They are.
So
yeah?
if you want to
Might
introduce
consider-
yourselves that were on the,
Why not?
please.
Yeah, who is it? Well, we don't even know it.
Hi, I'm
I don't.
Hillary Kuhn. I was on the search committee. I was a Berlin parent on the search committee.
Thank you.
Jason Carroll. I was the school choice representative for the parents. Jason.
Joseph Leroy, I was there representing the elementary school.
Anybody else?
I was Rob Pelzarski. I was the principal for Boylston Elementary, representing the Evan.
And perhaps we should have the chair's parents also introduce themselves as much as I know what they're
Yeah, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please, you should be very proud of your daughter.
You couldn't have done it if it weren't for you. Thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Robin Christenary, County, we're Boylston residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
All right.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Chair. Again,
Thank you, Tracy.
within 24 hours, if I could have your schedule, that would really be ideal. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Could I just
Thank
make
you.
a comment? Lauren did a phenomenal job.
Yes.
For someone who is, has less world experience than the rest of us, she handled it so beautifully, professionally, but with good humor. And it was just, we were really proud to have you represent us. I think Jess feels the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
I also, by the way, want to give credit to the school committee. It is rare for school committee members to serve on the search committee and not have a school committee member actually serve as chair. Not only did that not happen in this case, but it was actually your school committees, I understand, who did some lobbying behind the scenes to encourage the students to actually put themselves forward. Lauren was actually nominated by her fellow student, which then was seconded by the committee. So there was certainly some trust and leadership in the search committee, but it's a credit to that actually coming, in fact, from the school committee from the very beginning. And it does, by the way, absolutely make an impression on those who are applying for the superintendency to be greeted by a student in that position. It makes a real comment about the value that this district puts on student voice.
Thank you.
No, this was great.
And thank you to the center office for providing food.
Yes. And design.
Thank you very much.
Was it here?
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Very much.
Oh,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, she did do proud.
And it's good.
Oh, it was nice. It was a table coming off.
All right, next we're going to vote to go into executive session. We will be returning to open session afterwards. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Purpose 4, to discuss the security of the Berlin-Boylston Regional School District Emergency Safety Plan if an open meeting could have a detrimental effect on the security of the Berlin-Boylston Regional School District. May I have a motion to enter
So moved.
executive session?
So moved.
Megan,
Second.
Lisa, okay, Lisa,
Roll call.
roll call vote.
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
I might as well. All right, so we're gonna enter executive session. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that.
All right, cool. So we're back in our open session. The next section here is school committee reorganization. For this one, like we did last year, the meeting is gonna hand over to the superintendent or interim superintendent to run this next portion.
Okay, so this is my favorite time of the year where it's like Christmas, where I'm overseeing the whole school committee at this time. So at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for nominations. Do I have any nominations for the school committee chair?
I'd like to nominate Mike for school committee
Okay,
chair.
I'll second that.
Mike, and a second for Mike. Any other nominations for school committee chair?
I would like to nominate myself.
Jessica,
Second.
and I have a second. Hey, you good with all these numbers? Any other nominations for school committee chair? Last call. So I have two nominees for school committee chair. I have Mike and I have Jessica, both have been seconded. I now open the floor to any discussions on who would like to be, who the nominees are, or if they'd like to say something on their behalf as well too.
Yeah, I'd like to talk.
Jessica.
So I've been a member of the school committee for 3 years now. When I first moved back to Boylston in 2019, I said I wanted to keep my head down and keep out of small town politics. And I found myself running for the school committee because I wanted a seat at the table when things were discussed. As a family nurse practitioner and mom and someone who majored in science-based studies, evidence means a lot to me. And if I don't know information about a particular topic, I do like to seek it out, find out information, talk to the experts, talk to the stakeholders within the district before I make decisions. I know before I joined the school committee, I was quite passionate about particular topics. I do have ADHD, so sometimes I do see things with black and white and sometimes difficulty seeing the gray. But that is something that I have become more aware of and recognize and try to take a deep breath before responding. I do appreciate how Lori, when she was chair, she disagreed with what I was saying, but always made eye contact with me and treated me with respect. And that's something that I have a goal to do as well as chair. I've attended 2 of the Massachusetts School Committee conferences, and I will attend the one this week too. I think it's a really amazing opportunity to see how other school committees are run, see what is the best practice by the MASC, who are members and who are running our superintendent search right now. In the beginning, you're required to do charting the course. There's also summer sessions that you can attend for different topics. I took an online Robert's Rules class when I was told I couldn't amend a motion, when in fact we can twice. I've also more recently attended a Zoom OML session run by the state to become more knowledgeable on this as well. When Lori and I ran for this back in 2022, we were the only contested candidates within the election. And so I feel that I have earned a spot to participate as chair. I have attended 2 times the How to Be a Chair at the MASC conference. And in those trainings said the chair is supposed to be the servant of the assembly, first among equals, chief volunteer. And these are my goals. I have no agenda besides the students trying to get the best education they can. And that may not be what my viewpoints are. And I'm really excited for a free exchange of ideas. Like was mentioned, sometimes we run in silos, and so we don't know what other people are doing or attending or what efforts are being put forth. And then, when discussions are made, it's realized that things might already be done by someone else. So I really would like to serve the committee. I'd like to serve the town. I know it is a time commitment, and I know it is something that I would like to do. In many districts, their respecting open meeting law, there's no discussions prior to the meetings about who would like to be chair. And so that's why I nominated myself. And so I would very much appreciate the opportunity to work with everyone. I know, Lisa, we've attended the MASC conference together, and we've not always seen eye to eye on things, but we've had pleasant dinners together and discussions. And Lori, I enjoyed our time together on the school committee, the superintendent search as well. So, I would really like the opportunity in the next year. I'm very excited about the potential our district has and the future leadership that we have. So I respectfully would request your support in running for the chair.
Thank you, Jessica. Mike?
Sure. I'm very interested in continuing as the chair. I think this last year, we've focused quite a bit on rebuilding of the central office, rebuilding in the district, rebuilding in the relationships with the town. I feel that I've started to build some pretty positive relationships, especially with central office. The towns haven't told you this yet, but the towns will be coming to the December 9th meeting to talk about the budget with us. I invited them, both Kristen and April. Kristen's responded. Still waiting to hear from April, but I think that's going to work out. I want to get through another smooth budget process. We have this year to continue the work we've been doing, cleaning up everything from the past, getting things where they should be. I know we're getting ready to close up FY24. FY25 went relatively smoothly. We got the budget passed smoothly in FY26 and hopefully again in FY27. I want to continue the work that we've done and the momentum that we have working with Al, getting the new superintendent hired and refocusing the committee work on the actual work that a committee has to do, budget, superintendent, policy, and the things that go around that. So I really appreciate continuing that momentum, continuing to be the chair for that, and handing over a well-running, well-oiled machine to the new superintendent, whoever that might be. So if that's something you're interested in, I would appreciate your support as well.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say something. So I appreciate that both of you want to do this job because it's not fun or easy. So a couple of years ago, I was talking to someone from one of the select boards, I can't remember where, and they said it becomes very dangerous when someone becomes chair for more than 2 or 3 years. And Mike's already done 2 years. And it's because it becomes their committee. And I think it would be, technically, I think everybody should take a turn at doing chair, right? I understand not everyone wants to do it because it's a lot of work. But Jessica has put in so much time and so much effort into learning Robert's rules, open meeting law, how a meeting should run. She always tries to make sure everyone's, things are on the agenda. And I just think it would be nice to have somebody else have a turn to do this role.
Any other further discussion? Thank you, Megan. Any last call for further discussion? Okay, with nothing further, it is time now to vote. I'm asking you, you're voting right now for the school committee chair, and I'm going to do it in alphabetical order. I feel like that's the fairest way to do it. I'm going to start with Jessica. You first, please.
So we're just saying names? Is that-
Yes, please. Sorry.
Jessica.
I got it. Megan.
Jessica.
Laurie Ann.
Mike.
Lisa Mann.
Mike.
Beth Mancini.
I'm going to abstain.
Abstain. Mike Totman.
Mike.
So with Beth abstaining, we do a majority with 5 people voting, 3 for Mike as the chair and 2 for Jessica. Mike Totman will be our new chair for the 25-26 school year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, as well, too. Thanks, everybody else. So at this point, I'm going to turn over the meeting back over to chair of the BBRSD, which is Mike, and for you to fill the vice chair, school committee district clerk as well.
Yeah, all right, thank you, Al. So same process for vice chair. Is there any nominations for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Beth for vice chair.
I would second that.
I will nominate myself again.
I'll second that. Sorry.
Any others? All right, anything to say?
I thought it's supposed to be a Berlin, Boylston. I thought we try to do one from each.
I
Not
think we broke
necessarily.
that rule when we did the subcommittee for superintendent, didn't we?
But never chairs, assistant chairs,
So there's no such rule.
So
It's not a rule, it's just we've tried to keep it so that
precedent.
the leadership is split, but
So we looked at the regional agreement, there's nothing in there that designates that it should be going back and forth. We've had some, and you guys know this regional agreement better than I do, where we're in previous districts, it was specified in the regional agreement, one. But it does not appear anywhere in our regional agreement, but something when we're looking at revisiting our regional agreement, that could be something that we absolutely put in.
Yeah, we
So
certainly have
this
that
was
as
an
an amendment.
expected outcome that we had to research the regional agreement for?
No, we were looking at the regional agreement constantly. The towns have been asking, the towns have absolutely been asking us to be looking at our regional agreement. They actually want to meet with Aaron and I to talk about the regional agreement budgetarily wise. So we are constant, as we should be, looking at that regional agreement over and over and over again. So it had anything to do with this, but we've been looking at that in the past as well too.
To Lori's point, I mean, we didn't care about individual town representation when we did the vote for that search committee, so it's not a rule, it's not in there. You can vote how you like to vote.
So
Anything else?
Jessica nominated herself, and I'm wondering, you were nominated, and do you accept the nomination?
I would be willing to do it. I was interested in possibly doing chair. I did not feel ready to do it.
Okay.
so you do want to do vice chair?
I wouldn't mind doing it, but I don't want to.
Oh.
Oh.
We'll go in the same alphabetical order, if I can remember correctly. Jess?
Point of order, should we have a moment of recess?
Should we?
I think we should.
Do you want to recess?
You okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
You should. Okay. Jess?
Jessica.
Megan?
Jessica.
Lori?
Lisa. I mean, sorry, Beth.
Yeah, Lisa.
I just threw a curveball in there.
Okay, Lisa. Was it Beth first? Sorry. Alphabetical order, Lisa.
So it was Jessica, Megan, Laurie, Ann, and then Lisa.
You're gonna abstain?
You're abstaining from voting for yourself?
Okay. I think I'm gonna vote for Beth.
Okay.
I mean, vice chair.
All right, and Beth, your vote?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. I'll also vote for Beth. So same abstaining, 3 votes and 2 votes for Jess, so Beth is the vice chair. Next position is the district clerk. Are there any nominations for district clerk?
I'll nominate Laurie if she wants it.
Do it.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Someone else wants it.
Nope.
I'll second that.
I can train anyone.
Any other nominations for district clerk? Only one nomination for district clerk, so we'll still do a vote though. Jess?
Laurie.
Megan?
Laurie.
Lisa?
Laurie.
Beth? Okay, Lori, you're the district clerk.
Did you get Lisa in there? Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, good.
So the district clerk will be, probably the biggest thing working on is the election
Election, yeah.
coming in, all right?
Mike, before we go any further, you good with it?
You got it all? All right.
And Laura, that election papers are usually July 22nd.
Yeah, I have a whole timeline. Thankfully, I did it before, so I'm hoping to kind of coast on that a little bit.
They'll give us the dates.
Yes, they're really good about it.
I just said congratulations.
Crying in school committee.
All right.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Okay, now let's start the school committee meeting now. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment on any of the items on the agenda for tonight? Looks like we have a taker in the back. State your name and town, please.
Jason Carroll, Clinton.
Jason, can you come up to the table first, please?
And your business from Clinton in Boylston, Berlin Regional District
Yes,
is?
is related to the sports.
Their school choice.
Are you school choice parent?
School choice.
Okay. You have students in the district? Okay.
I have a ninth grade at Tohoto, so through Berlin, school choice out of Clinton.
Okay.
I forgot to print what I was gonna say, so if you don't mind, I'll just read it off email. It'll be a little briefer than, I sent a related email already to the athletic director, Al, with Lisa and Rich Cameron on copy, because it's related to the Student Advisory Council group that Rich runs, I believe, Rich Cameron. So my daughter, who comes to Tohoto as a ninth grader, is on that Student Advisory Council as well. And I believe the meeting was a week ago from Thursday, so about 10 days ago. And a rare teenager who still communicates with me. So she tells me the intricacies and the ins and outs of what she goes through every day, which is good. And well, after this, she told me she's not talking to me anymore. But I told her that I emailed some of the admin to just give my similar feedback that she had that day. So she let Rich Cameron and the Student Advisory Council know that she had a different perspective than the rest of the people in that meeting regarding specifically sixth graders playing on varsity sports teams. The topic may have been related to middle schoolers playing on varsity sports, but specifically in this, what she brought up to me was sixth graders playing for varsity sports. Anyhow, so as I mentioned, she was alone in being opposed to that idea, so she spoke up in the meeting and gave her opinion on why she felt that sixth graders should not play on varsity sports. Her and I have kind of witnessed firsthand over these past couple of years that she's been here, how at least one of the varsity coaches will come into middle school and JV practices and handpick the young middle school athletes he knows from travel and AAU leagues and move them into varsity part-time by mid-season or by the end of the season anyway. And I've always been involved in all sports. Growing up as a kid, my passion was sports, and fortunately my daughter's passion is academics. So she'll be a scholar down the road where she doesn't have a lot of interest in sports. She just plays basketball because she wants to be, play a sport to be popular. But she is very competitive. So when she goes to practice, tries out and plays, she is all in. So it bothers kids like her who are, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, seeing varsity coaches come in and go through 6th and 7th and 8th, some 8th graders to pull them up to varsity, over the older kids. And I just worry that that's opening that door here. I was surprised when my daughter came to 6th, 7th grade here that the district allowed middle schoolers to play JV and varsity sports. That didn't exist 30, 40 years ago when I was going up down the street. And I know in a lot of schools in Massachusetts that still doesn't exist. We didn't even have middle school sports. We just had recreation. I love that this district is small, the same size as the town public school I grew up in. And I love that they have middle school sports. And I just wish, in my mind, middle school kids should play middle school sports. And if you have a talented, larger 8th grader who's athletically gifted enough to play high school ball, and especially if you need an 8th grader to fill a JV or potentially varsity team, I don't have a problem with that either. But I worry that opening the door and allowing 6th graders to play high school sports it seems like a risk to me to the school. I joke with my daughter sometimes that there's 6th and 7th graders coming out when I pick her up at school that look like the size of a preschooler. And I joke about it, but they're, 3 feet tall, maybe 50 pounds. So no matter how talented they are, to take a young child that's not full grown and put them on a varsity team to potentially play against 17, 18-year-old adults who are my size or bigger, I think is a risk. So I just wanted the school committee and the admin to know that I'm personally opposed to the idea of having sixth graders play high school sports, especially varsity. And that's it, really. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Are there any other public comments?
Yes.
Okay. All right, no other public comments, so our next item is the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and, sorry, Lori and Lisa, would anyone like to say anything about the consent agenda?
Yeah, there's just an edit I wanted to point out.
Sure.
So this was the October 14th. And it was under item 7 and MCAS. The last line of that section says masks and it should be screens. Screens, like computer screens or phones, or just be screens.
Where are you saying that, Jess?
It's right above section 8, under MCAS, it's the very last line in that section. It says Ms. Degleberry brought up the amount of time the students are at home and time spent on reading and masks over the summer, also something reflected on it, these screens.
Jen, you good with that?
That's it. So I would like to amend that agenda with that replacement screens for the word masks.
A second for that amendment?
Second.
All right, discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, any discussion on the rest of the consent agenda? All right, all in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Anyone against it? All right, so the consent agenda is passed with that one edit. Is Mr. Dowd here?
No,
Okay.
I don't think they have the day off.
Sure, understandable. So next up is superintendent of schools.
Great, thank you. So before I get started, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for a really great professional learning day today. Our admin team, our curriculum directors worked really hard in preparing this day. If we look at our calendar, it lined up perfectly with having a day off tomorrow for our Veterans Day to honor our veterans. A lot of our communities around us, I know, are doing that as well too, so it really worked out well. But planning a full day of professional learning is a lot of work, so I thank our admin and our curriculum directors for that. For those of you that also may not have heard, we started our day, or at least what was on the agenda, was for Deanna Yela to talk about an hour presentation about cleanliness and get better results data when you look at having clean buildings. So we had Dan slated for an hour of that this morning. But what we really did, and Dan was a great sport about it, we ended up having a comedian named Jimmy Cash come in and did an hour presentation that was absolutely hilarious. That we had our nurses there, we had our teachers, we had our paras, we had our admin, we had our custodians, we had our cafeteria, we had our directors. Everyone was fair game, and myself included, as this admin team can certainly say it, but it was a really fun way for us to start our day. One of the things that you've heard people talk about even in these school committee meetings is culture, and trying to improve the culture. If you want to see a good culture, everyone laughing this morning and laughing at each other and just really having a good laugh this morning. Jimmy did a great job. If you have an opportunity to look at him on his YouTube channels and things, hilarious, like his snow day calls and things regarding being a custodian. He really is a custodian full-time in the Worcester Public Schools. Actually was my custodian years and years ago. So he did us a great thing today by coming in, and we were able to carve some time in there.
But I thank our admin team for being good sports. We hit it really well. We brought them in the back door, and so we were able to surprise them and bring them out. And I don't know if anyone, our admin, want to say how fun it was to start off our day like that.
Yeah, it's great.
Well received by my crew.
I love the people who were here and they were mad that they had to be here. And they came on and they were like, so just delightful.
He was like a movie star at the end, like everyone taking pictures with him, like everyone wanted their pictures taken with him and stuff. It was a really good culture building, and just credit for Professor Lane, Joe, following a comedian, like who does that, right? Besides Joe. And the comedian says, Jimmy says to us, phenomenal if you have a chance to look at him, what he does. Like, how much longer do I have, Al? And I just say, you got to pretty much wrap it up because we have Joe coming up next to talk about our math program, right? So, but he did a great job with that as well too. So I thank our admin. I thank certainly Jimmy and certainly Joe for following up with that as well too. So it was really a good time. Just got to tell you, I got one of probably about 15 emails, at least I haven't checked my email since 5. It says, "Hi Al, thank you so much for this morning. Jimmy was great. I think it was exactly what we need to start our day. I think sometimes we need to laugh a little about our daily lives, or else it becomes just a little too serious. Have a great day." And that's just one of the emails that we see from our staff about today. So I just want to make sure I share that. It certainly was camaraderie that was taking place this morning throughout our entire district. So it was great. So thank you everyone for that. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Renee and John, our 2 curriculum directors, to give us an overview of our district MCAS scores. This will be followed by what our needs are, what we're going to be asking you as a school committee that we need budgetarily, right? From looking at our data, that was the focus, the lens we looked at. Here's our data. We got some growth. We did some nice things were happening. But what do we need to make sure we continue to grow? And I think one of the things we talked about, you've heard a lot, is about ELA coaches and stuff. So that's one of the things you'll probably be hearing from our 2 curriculum directors on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Renee and to John to join us, please.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
That's so kind. Can I just plug this in, or I can speak to the slides too?
You can unplug it and plug it.
Okay. So I had shared kind of the very detailed slides the department heads had put together for you. I'm not going to share that again, right? So I just summarized some kind of key takeaways that I will highlight for you. If you have specific questions, I ask that you note that, like specific department questions. I want to make sure we give the department heads the opportunity to respond appropriately, rather than me just kind of, without all the additional information in front of me responding. I'm happy to have those answered for you, but I'll still get back to you, okay? So these are just, are the takeaways. That slideshow, I think, was like 60 slides or something, right? You might not even have a chance to go through it all. There's some great slides on there. They've really put some really great effort.
Do you want my percentage?
Like, oh, sure.
For lack of a better word.
Your microphone.
We're all high tech.
It's a company from Worcester that makes the bubbler. That's why it's called bubbler.
Out in the western part of the state, they don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's a Worcester thing. It's a Worcester company. Just so you know, that's.
All right.
Okay, so this is just in the order of those very comprehensive slides, okay? So I literally took the takeaways, and they started with special education pieces, because that historically had been what Tohoto had done, so I did that again. So just the takeaways from special education, if you had read those graphs, we're still, our special education students, the population, it's increased slightly since 2019, but it's about 30%. It's remaining about the same. So the needs, if you looked at that high needs chart, that includes high needs students and IEP students, right? So sometimes we put them all together, right? Because they're all part of a category called high needs. But we have ELL students in there. We have students with disabilities as well, right? So they're put in that. There's 2 kind of graphs that you were given. The specially designed instruction, these were kind of the bullet points that Janelle really wanted us to convey to you. That we still have to have IEP goals that are based on the standards, right? Because majority of our IEP students are taking the MCAS. Data-informed instruction, small group instruction, scaffolded instruction, meaning, we kind of pull back, a little less support each time, and the consultation with teachers. The next slides were all based on ELA and math content, and we really want to talk about the 10th grade. Lisa and I sat down today, we looked at these graphs, and we said, wow, there's a lot of similarities with 10th grade with ELA and math. Okay, and really, it's all good news. In 10th grade, we're doing great. We continue to do very, very well. ELA and math performance continues to meet or exceed the state benchmarks. We continue to have sustained growth, and we have strong outcomes. Now, I want you to be mindful, right? We skipped 9th grade, right? So we have a whole bunch of data for middle school, 8th grade. We have no 9th grade test. And then we take a 10th grade test, right? So we have almost like an additional year, right, to prepare, to get to know those students, to figure out what we need to do. I also want you to just be aware, as each year changes, the students change, right? You'll see right now some data that has preliminary data of where our 9th and 10th graders are. Today, we did a whole deep dive in data. Right after we had the comedian, unfortunately, they had to do data in middle and high school, right? And they said, Renee, hey, come up here. Let's take a look where we are in ELA specifically with some of these first, achievement pieces. We need to do some additional pieces to get them to continue to stay here. And so you'll see that in some of their asks from the school committee. Middle school performance, it remains steady. We continue to usually, meet or exceed those state benchmarks, but we see the data with an increasing need for targeted instruction tiered supports. The teachers have the availability, if you took a look at, especially the ELA and math, they were able to look kind of item analysis on specific questions. So they're able to see some of those gaps where they are with specific skills. So we are really fortunate that we've been given some time in some students' schedule to support that, but not in all. And so that will be another ask that we have to try to relook at things in order to get this targeted support there. Again, I'm just noting no 9th grade MCAS, because I'm sure you're aware, but sometimes it's something we forget. So what is the ELA department doing now, right, that they're looking at their data? They are determining that 3 primary areas in the grades we need to focus more on power standards. There's so much to teach, so little time. It's a common problem throughout all the content areas. Writing, topic development, it needs to be something that needs to be at the forefront. Also talking to the humanities department as a whole. Today we went in and Lisa and I, we were also talking to history. How can history support, right? They have a civics exam in 8th grade, but how can they support this writing, right? So we need to talk to them as well. Reading, identifying literacy techniques. This is going to be coming into play too as we start hoping to do more vertical alignment with the elementary school. Language, parts of speech. We're thinking, we had a big conversation with Department Head Peter Dory today, the ELA department. Do we go back to some grammar pieces in our curriculum that then extend into their writing? Some real, foundational skills. We may need to add that back in. That's what the data is showing. Vertical alignment, like we had stated, build an MCAS Google Classroom. Kids do well with that. They're used to those platforms. Something that, and I don't want to embarrass her, but give a lot of credit when you see the science scores to Principal Sequeira. She not only, although she's principal now, right? Science is still her passion, her love, and she's phenomenal at teaching it. Last year, we recognized that science was going to continue to be something that we needed extra support with. And we have built into some of our grant funding that extra support for math and bio. We're going to maybe need to do that for ELA as well, because we have different students each year. So each year may look a little bit different. Okay. Math department, again, this department head really was thinking about everything they've been doing. There was a big thank you slide as well it's not included in here. But a lot of this work, right, has been in place because we've added an additional math teacher, okay, who's in the room right now, by the way, but I won't embarrass him. But because of that, we've been able to do additional work in math. Now, what we need to do is make sure that we are having additional offerings at the high school because of our math department. But now we need to say strategically, right? Does that extra position, where does that fall in line with our MCAS data, right? It's so difficult because we're small to make sure that we're able to offer the supports and the scheduling that tiered interventions need and the additional programs that our high and AP courses deserve, right? So it's this fine balance, working with it all the time. So regularly meeting to take a look at what those achievement and growths are by the subgroups. Formative assessments, something we've been working on as a district. Supporting our high achieving students, again, that's part of adding in that additional position. Incorporate open response questions into assessments. This is huge, right? Because this is a piece where in math, typically, even our students that are really great in their foundational skills and calculation, the open response questions is not something of their strength. This is, a cross-department, type of piece of work. This new curriculum that's being utilized right now from 6 through 8, which I think you had heard us talk a little bit about as we were starting to take a look at the elementary curriculum as well. They really feel that this has been a great contributor to the increased math MCAS scores. Middle school spends also a lot of time, again, it's in their schedule. It's in their schedule to look at data. It's in their schedule to have an intervention time, okay? So there's additional time and support for those teachers and those students to do this work. And it works when you have time, right? 6th grade team, they make effective use of that win block. So that's that intervention time that sixth grade only at this time has dedicated solely for each student. Science, technology, and engineering. 8th grade, combination of all 4 content areas: life science, earth science, physical science, technology, engineering. Our STE tests are unique in that we can't allow full cohorts, but we did see that the group was not as successful as previous years. We were not surprised by this, but it caused us to identify areas in literacy that we need to strengthen. And again, we've had 2 days of PD now to really kind of look through those item analysis, take a look at those questions that those students, we need to focus our instruction and our intervention on. Biology, again, we're pleased. We had no failures. Again, don't want to embarrass her. She spent a dedicated amount of time. She won't come up here and tell you that. Targeting a group of students she knew needed extra support. And she knew that was the way to do it, right? So, but you have to take a look at the data and you need time. Guess what? It wasn't in their schedule. It was after school, right? And the parents were committed, right? There was personalization there. That's something that we can do in a small school, right? So there's pluses and minuses of that small school piece. Civics was really wonderful. Mr. Ganem didn't highlight that great article, but I'm hoping that the school committee got to see that. We had a lot of our, and that was something that just was sent to us, right? Like, wow, we didn't even know it was coming, right? So we had a lot of great high performing pieces in there. And civics was one of them. And let me tell you, this 8th grade class is quite a broad span of all different learners, right? So this current 9th grade, this 8th grade class, this is really an accomplishment. I think this also speaks to the fact that this is a project-based class. Project-based class. They have to present, they have to work as a group. This is great results. Now this is new too, right? So this is the first time we've really had data on this. And the teachers should be really, really proud. By the way, she didn't even send us that article, right? It was one of her colleagues that did. That was great, something we wanted to highlight. Next steps, continue to review our standards reports. The 8th grade review session prior to MCAS. The high school biology review sessions after school and Zoom, those continue to be helpful. Incorporate STE performance assessment tasks for 8th grade. Implement formative assessments per UDL. This is something we had our second half of our day at Tohoto. We had a wonderful speaker today in Mirko Chardin, really speaking to us on how we look at assessments. And it's not just your summative assessments, it's your everyday formative assessments and what you do to take away from that. That's something we'll share with the whole district. It's something though that you know what you need to do, but there's drivers in order to do the work. And that's what we'll need help from you. We need help to make the drivers all work. And unfortunately, a lot of those are budgetary pieces, right? And so that's where sometimes the stumbling happens. Okay, here's the favorite part. This is what you guys asked for. Okay, so a lot of these pieces are specific for math. Francine Gleason put these pieces together, but they really speak to all content areas that are assessed on the MCAS. Prioritize staffing to address the growing needs for differentiated instruction, interventions in math, right? With math coaches, with interventionists. There is something here at the middle high school with paraprofessionals. We have many paraprofessionals that spend a great deal of time in one content area, and they really become specialized in that content. If we can do more of that when we're doing our scheduling and staffing, we can't always do it, but if we can have that at the forefront, the teachers, I heard this not from Matt, I also heard this from our department head of science. This is critical. If I was the paraprofessional in math one day and then biology another day, and then I had to go to, AP Lang, that would be very confusing, right? How am I then going to support that curriculum for those students that need the extra help? Evidence-based interventions, we just don't have that beyond a small pocket in middle school. That's something we really need to look at, especially, I'm telling you, our data is looking good, but we have different students each year, right? We have different students each year. The data continues to change, and the needs continue to change. We don't have any math intervention. Right now we have a Title I grant, right, through our ESSER grant that does contain some very small amount of funding for reading intervention, but nothing for math. It's something that we really should consider. It doesn't have to be necessarily a full-time position, but something that we may need to consider. Invest in professional learning, because perhaps some of these pieces are done by staff members that are already here, but we don't have the time or the scheduling to work on that, right? That's the other piece. Equitable access to materials. This is something that there's going to be an audit, I think, with the math department, especially as we start this vertical, alignment. What do we have for manipulatives? What do we have already in-house and what do we need? So that'll be part of the budget process. The problem right now is that where do we have the time during the school year? So do we fund things outside of the school day, whether it's after school or summer work? This may be something that we need teachers for in order for students to come in and become more fluent. This hire an L teacher, an additional L teacher, is something that I know you've heard before, but is something that is now affecting some of the data, right? Not that it hasn't before, but because if you look at that high needs chart, that is one subgroup that has continued to rise, okay? And so that is something, we still only have 2 L teachers within the whole district. And because of that, for example, I just speaking with our L teachers, they're being pulled out of core content areas, right? Like ELA, like math, to get their L services provided, right? So they're missing core instructional tier 1 instruction, right? And because they're limited in their schedules, right? Not that we know it's best practice, we know it's not, but because of their scheduling. So that's something that all departments continue to see as a need. Substitute teachers, this is because we are pulling our paraprofessionals out of what we may have trained a paraprofessional to work in chemistry. For example, we did that a couple years ago, right? But then if you don't have appropriate subs, we may not have that same paraprofessional in that chemistry class. So that's something that we see throughout, I think, all of the district, but something that they definitely wanted to highlight. Some additional supports, this has more to do with the ELA, some more science. Putting back into the budget the positions that were lost at Tohoto. That is part of our scheduling part, right? It's just one part of our scheduling kind of issues right now, right? Because we're down 2 teachers. So that's also taking a content specialist out of maybe their core content teaching and teaching another subject away from their licensure. That's also taking elective times, right? So instead of having an elective teacher teach those electives, there may be a math teacher trying to teach, some kind of an additional elective there instead of those pieces coming back in. We really need to start addressing specific student IEPs and intervention needs during those pieces. Losing 2 full-time teachers, I think, has impacted that. we are seeing, I think, of course, all grade levels, like Mr. Ganem had spoke about, reading and math specialists. We have people that, it was actually, Mr. Chardon today said that. Not everybody's going to specialize in every content area. You need to bring the ones that are specializing in the area so that they can really move the data. And that is something that ELA department feels very strongly about. Just historically, many years ago, so when I came to this district 3 years ago, I said, I don't understand why there's only 45 minutes of English language arts for 6, 7, and 8. It's something that I hadn't seen before, and so I was starting to do a little bit digging. It sounds like, and I don't have the exact date, but it sounds like probably in the move up to this building, maybe shortly thereafter, there was a lot of budget cuts that happened, and they went down to just one English language arts period. So instead of having kind of your grammar, your writing, right, and then having a literature, your comprehension, all those pieces, right, you had to say, oh, we don't have the money. Here's 45 minutes, do it all. It's catching up, right? When we're looking at the data, we're seeing it's catching up. Peter Doherty is very passionate about this. He said, I knew this was gonna happen, and here we are. We're seeing bigger gaps. Although we're still growing, although our data is still looking good overall, some of those gaps are becoming a little bit wider because we just don't have the time. And especially when we don't have dedicated intervention, especially 7, 8, 9, right? By the time they get to 10th grade, we're seeing that. That would be a recommendation, bringing an additional English teacher back into the middle school. That could maybe not just be the middle school, right? We have plenty of ideas to help you out with that, but really 2 positions lost, and they're looking also for an additional piece for ELA. Additional special education teachers, you've heard that. It's very difficult to address all these needs with our special education population without certified teachers in there, especially as our programming has shifted. We now have 2 Bridges classrooms, so the population has changed a bit, and that is still also a need. But we were able to do if you really take a look at those slides for math, the amount of movement that we're able to do with one more teacher with math, significant, right? So it's worth that, extra FT if we can get it in there. There's so much we can do, and we were able to really accomplish great work the last couple years of that. So thank you together. That could work too, right? So thank you for your support. Any specific questions, please write them down. Let me know what they are. I'll get those to the department heads. They can either come and address you at the next meeting, or I can, however you want to address that through the chair, we can get that information back to you. Okay, so I know you might not have looked at all the slides before, but feel free to dig deeper into them. And if there's specific questions, just let us know. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Renee. There's a lot of information we're giving you, a lot of data that we put in the drive that talks about really good things that have been taking place. I know I shared that article with you that was in the TG about the success and us being recognized across. I should have, thanks Renee for catching me on that. That is something we should be very, very proud of, right? We're seeing some really nice growth here in our district. We want to continue to see that growth. We were also recognized this year, beginning of the year, that we're doing better than pre-COVID, right? As a district, we want to do even better than that, right? And so you're hearing loud and clear that we need some additional staffing to really work on those intervention groupings that take place. The other part, I'm going to be talking to you in December school committee meeting. I'm going to be increasing, working with Aaron and principals, we're going to be increasing the pay for subs. We need subs. We need people in our buildings to cover. We have teachers that are out, and when we don't have coverage for them, we're pulling out paras, we're pulling other people to cover them. Jen has done some homework for me and really called all the other districts around us in the local area to see what they're paying for subs as well too. So we're trying to be a little bit more competitive to see if we can get more people subbing for that. So that's a key piece as well too. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah.
John?
Great. All right. Thanks. I don't know how I'm going to follow all that. I don't have as many slides. And I've done this the way I've done it for years and years. This is my last MCAS presentation. I wanted to be as consistent with tradition as possible. So I'm going to use some of the same things. Assessment thoughts. MCAS testing does not measure the worth of children or teachers or schools. I say this every year. It's one test at one point in time that gives us a snapshot of where we are relative to standards and students in our schools across the Commonwealth. And then finally, what terrible lighting. What each MCAS assessment can do is point out patterns of performance, and you're hearing that at the middle high schools, and areas where we need to improve. Okay. We'll start with language arts, because it's the most important thing we do. You've seen that 1,000 times. These are grade 3 scores. Talking with Rob in Boylston and the superintendent, we decided to focus on one school district rather than separate schools. So these are our district goals, or our district results for the MCAS test last year. In ELA, our kids garnered 53% of the available points. And you can see this is the meets or exceeds graph. It's relatively flat, right? It's down slightly relative to the state, because the state's always at about 44%. We came down a little bit this year.
Looks like the state's going up there, John.
Well, going up, let's see, from 42 to 43.
Any improvement?
Somebody has to. Grade 4, more successful, 63% of the possible points. And our meets or exceeds percentage was, again, essentially, it was the same, 56 and 56. And again, to Mr. Tottenham's point, the state went up 4 points, good for the state. In grade 4, you get a measure of growth for the first time. This is our grade 4 growth graph. You can see that we outperformed the state in terms of the meets or exceeds. We're pretty much average in terms of student growth. This is grade 5 ELA. Good year in grade 5. 63% of the total points. And you can see we jumped up as a district from 56% meets or exceeds last year to 64% this year. I have to pause here. We not doing individual schools, but I did promise Peter Doherty that I would recognize one person. Some of you who've been around a while have heard me talk about, we should get 80% meets or exceeds every year, yada, yada, yada. My 5th grade ELA teacher, Tia Kugler now. Tia, 2 out of the last 3 years, has gotten 80% of her kids to meets or exceeds, which is just phenomenal. So Peter said if I didn't say anything, he was going to punch me in the nose. And I'm scared of Peter. So.
She's a great teacher.
She is a great teacher. So you can see, and that's reflected in the growth chart here, well above the state in terms of meets or exceeds, and above the state in terms of student growth percentiles. Math, Mr. Flournoy. Here's our grade 3 math results. 68% of the possible points, and a meets or exceeds of 67%, which is good for us. And well worth noting, we did a lot of work last year around math, and I think it really showed up. The year, we wouldn't emphasize it too much because then there's grade 4. 59% of the available points. You can see for the past couple of years, our meets or exceeds number has dropped. Part of that, and this is where I'll talk about it, because we're such a small school district, if you have a significant number of kids for whom this test is not appropriate, it tends to drag down your score. So for example, in 4th grade last year, a third of my 4th grade, a third of the kids are on significant academic plans. It's not an appropriate test for them. And as if they wanted to prove it to me, none of them scored meets or exceeds, which kind of drags the whole thing down. Not for lack of effort, but that's kind of where it is. You can see that our meets or exceed number is high, but our growth is lower than the state, which is not good. This is grade 5 math. And again, you can see 58% of the possible points available. Our score again dipped from 69% last year to 51% this year. The state went down a little bit, not as much as we did. And you can see again, meets or exceeds were okay, but our growth is a little below average. There's all of that. The other thing I wanted to point out, and this goes back to my point about students with academic needs. We heard a lot of talk last year, and Mrs. Fitzpatrick would back this up. This is that indicator 3 data, where you look at the number of students with IEPs who scored proficient, meets or exceeds, as opposed to the number of students without IEPs, and then the gap in proficiency. So you can see for language arts, in 3rd grade, it was 46%. The gap. In 4th grade, it was 61%. And then in 5th grade, 49%. You can see students without IEPs do reasonably well. My kids with IEPs, not so much. In math, very similar numbers. Grade 3 rocked it in math. 80% of them meets or exceeds, 65 and 62. But you can see that gap is very large still. And it's, it is what it is. For some kids, it's not an appropriate test, but not for all kids.
So John, before you go there, so our job as educators is to educate all of our students, right?
Yep.
And we talk about the training we're going in through UDL for formative assessments and, right, how do we individualize UDL, Universal Design for Learning, right? The way Renee learns might be different from the way Lisa and John and I learn. But yet the MCAS test is the same test given for all our students, right? So sometimes it's not a match for all of our kids, but it's certainly data that we look at. Conversations that we're having today were rich at our schools about looking at this data and how can we educate all of our kids as well. But it's a fact, right? This test is the same test we give for all of our students, even though during the day, if a teacher gave one test for the same exact amount of kids, we say to them, come up with a formative assessment, come up with universal design for learning, other ways of testing our kids and teaching to our kids. But yet the state says, this is the assessment we give you at this time.
They're setting a bar, and that's fine.
That's correct.
As long as we understand what the bar means and how fair is the bar really.
Our job is to educate all of our students.
To the best of their ability, which means holding them accountable. And that sometimes is a real challenge. My list of what do we need, how can you help is not nearly as long as my colleagues at the middle high school. Support for teachers. We need to support our teachers better. We need to maintain our math coach. We desperately need to add a literacy coach. The most important thing we do is teach children to read. It's true all the way across the board. If they can read, everything else can be fixed. If they cannot read, we cannot help them in other areas. But we don't have a literacy coach. It's crazy.
That specializes in being literacy, John.
Right.
That has that certification. Renee has that certification, right, in our district. Right? When you think about students that are graduating from colleges and universities to become teachers, they have one class for learning how to teach reading. One is all they take, right? Imagine that, right? When they're, especially those primary grades where kids are learning how to read, because then they can read to learn. Like, we need experts in this field to be able to help us out, that have the certifications of reading specialists, that know the science of reading, to teach our kids from where they're at and how to move ahead.
And to pick up that, read to learn, the old saying used to be, you read to learn, and then you learn to read, and then you read to learn. I think you're hearing from the middle high school, that's not true. We're still teaching kids to read in 6th and 7th and 8th grade. That's part of the help that they're asking for. So we need to do that. We need to support our special education students, and it's so ironically, Mr. Gamm already brought this up. There are kids for whom this test is not appropriate. There are other students in my school, and I'm sure in Boylston as well, for whom the test is a challenge, but not impossible. You get kids who'd rather not write a whole paragraph, but if better supported, they might be able to. We don't support our neediest students to the level that we should. We need to add I know Rob's talked about another teacher, but it's a special education teacher that we need, along with a more effective use of administrative special ed coordinators. They drive that practice. They drive lesson planning and goal setting for these most needy students. We need people who, I got Sherry Trank one day a week in my school. It's It's not enough. Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Janelle Fitzpatrick comes in too, but she's got like 7,000 other things to do. And then finally, we need to support our elementary school teachers because we need to give them time to plan and work together. That was the conversation. PD day in the afternoon for us today was a discussion around ELA for next year. And looking forward in terms of ELA programs and where can we get better. We looked at strengths and weaknesses. What they said over and over and over again was, we need time to have these conversations. Our professional development for this year is done. It's November. We have no time, and unlike my friends at the middle high school, my teachers get 4 prep periods a week. There's one day when they teach from 8:20 to 3 o'clock. If they want to go to the bathroom, they need somebody to come into their room. It's madness. We've got to do a better job. And I know all these things that you're hearing from me and from Renee all cost $1 million, trillion, zillion dollars. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves in terms of where are our priorities. The towns are up against it. I get that. But we can do better for our kids than we're doing now. As well as we do, a lot of what we do well is based on zip code. We have great parents. We have kids that get read to at home. But for the kids who really need us, we're stretched much too thin. So that's my little rant.
Before you go,
Oh.
could you go? You say support elementary teachers by giving them meaningful time to plan. Motion to give them more time to plan and work. Seconded and approved. Like we would do that. Specifically, how does that happen?
Well, it starts with
more teachers, more paras, more subs.
We eliminated a day of
Literacy
specials.
coach, tell us, what is it specifically?
PD days? Do you want more PD days?
I want more PD days where they get to talk to each other. I want a 5th special, so if they have time.
So more PD days, so more half days?
See, I would have gone back to half days. The challenge with half days, if we learned this last year, well, there are 2. One is that people consider school babysitting. So the big complaint was, well, who's going to take care of my kid on the half day? If the really good school districts can do half days, we should be able to do half days. And this is all, by the way, easy for me to say because I won't be here.
Yeah.
The other challenge with half days is that it's a ton of planning, way more than I thought. Joey was great last year of math. But that was like half of it each day. And then there was, what do we do with the other half? How are we planning meaningfully for the other half? And when it was me doing all the other things that I had to do and plan, that became way more challenging than I thought it would be.
And I would respectfully disagree because I think our professional learning is continuing all year. We have a second faculty meeting each month that our teachers are working together, right? And that's supposed to be the focus of universal design for learning, our teachers collaborating with them. That is why we have that second faculty meeting. I know that you might not necessarily agree, but that's the focus of that meeting.
So
working together.
It's not happening.
So more time, right? Time's not free, but half days, more PD days.
Yep.
It's not really gonna show up in a budget.
That's free.
Well, it'll show up in pain for you guys because you get the same complaints you got last year.
Sure, we'll get that, but is that the only thing? Is it the coaches, the specialists? Do you need more teachers? Do we need another teacher at BMS? Do we need one at BES?
Well, I know BMS has a separate problem because they've always had one grade of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year you're done, right, Rob?
DES has a need for a 5th grade next year.
Yeah, so there'd be that addition. Part of the challenge, Mike, is that
That small class is graduating at BES.
right.
No, it's like class are 50.
But more in terms of like giving them more time. You get to the middle high school, they've got a lot more flexibility. They're scheduled for little blocks here and there, but they've got 7 and 8 periods a day that are free. Not free, they're working hard. This is not a criticism. But they have a good deal more time. The illusion, the mistake we make in our thinking is that elementary teaching is easy. And everybody thinks that it's easy to teach in an elementary school should bring themselves down and run a 1st grade for a day.
I would need to coach them for an hour for soccer.
Exactly.
I would never say
I mean,
that.
just coached a team.
So we'll have specific things to look at in December.
Yeah.
If you ever want to validate about the middle school and the high school as opposed to of elementary. When little people that bring it in for, Patty brings them in for subbing, they want to sub in the middle and high school, right? Trying to find subs at the elementary level is a lot of work to do. I think what you're gonna see our admin team be asking for you later on, when we're talking about that we're looking at that elementary level, there's some skills, technology skills that we're gonna come back and revisit that we're seeing that our kids don't have those keyboarding skills that they need, right? To be able to work on the computer, take the
I
MCAS.
mean, we eliminated tech and a reading teacher last year,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's,
Yep,
that's
we
the
didn't know
big
where our
special
budget,
we
we didn't
want.
know where our budget is, and we eliminated 2 teachers at the high school as well too to make our budget work, right? So that's why we are completely understandable that the school committee supports the decision we make. But it's our job also to go to the towns and all of our community to go to the towns and our teachers to go to the towns and help us fight that cause. Because anytime we're asking for something more, respectfully, Chris and April say, what are you taking off the plate, right? So we know that loud and clear.
Yeah, well, darned if you do, darned if you
That's
don't, and we have to make hard decisions. And
That's right.
it's the only reason.
So all this, I think no one in this room would disagree that we need all of this, right? All this plus more. But how are we gonna be able to afford it all as well? And that's
Al,
the-
can I ask a quick question? So that reading coach, I thought that was in the budget.
We had one.
It never got rehired from my.
It never got rehired, but it's actually in the budget. And then Boylston put another $50,000 into.
It's not in the budget.
Okay, Boylston put another $50-ish thousand, and I thought we were using that for literacy. There was an additional, we voted on it in
There is
July.
money available for VES.
Right, so I thought that we were gonna use that for some type of literacy support. I don't know if that has happened yet, but I mean, it sounds like this might be something that you're just telling us you need help.
So
We've
when
got-
we have, on the December 9th meeting, like John just said, we'll have, all the specifics for what you need, what it's gonna cost, what the budget's gonna look like.
I just want to clarify, so I know last year we did not have a reading coach and it was not hired last year, but we had one the year before. Is that correct, the 22 to 23?
Yeah.
So if you look at the ELA scores at the lower level, they all went up or level. Grade 4 ELA went up. And grade 3 state level, grade 5 went up in ELA too. So, I mean, I think there's support to say that it does make a difference.
And we've heard it loud and clear from our teachers as well, about that. Our admin team is saying we need that. We need to have those people that are specifically trained in teaching how to read
Right.
that.
It's critical in elementary.
So timestamp this meeting about 6:58 PM to 7:36. People can watch this and prepare for coming to talk about the budget next month, because I know one of the big complaints is nobody ever knows when we're gonna talk about the budget. So we're talking about it next month on the 9th. And this is a pretty good segue into that meeting of what we're gonna need, why we're gonna be seeing.
And this is just the start, by the way. We're in November, just at the start of November. We're starting to see things, right, that we're gonna say we're gonna need for next year. Some of the things we put in place, we don't even know that, we don't even know we know yet. But one thing that we're hearing from the elementary people is they need to have some skill sets in terms of technology. We're absolutely seeing that need there take place.
I'm curious, like, we identified the 5th grade teacher who's consistently getting her readers up to 80% in ELA. I'm curious, are her skills like washed, or like, does she coach other teachers? Identifying amazing educators from within, other people could probably benefit from how she's teaching the curriculum that is technically the same across the board.
And that's what happened today, right? Those teachers all working together, right? We broke them from primary to in the secondary and the elementary, like sharing their skill sets, right?
But if I may.
Sure, please.
To your point, I think we could really have like a model classroom, right? We can have model classrooms across the district, but that's a whole piece of culture that needs to get worked in. When we don't have days across the district, right, we do have this second faculty meeting, I can appreciate that, but that's building based, right? So in order for 5th grade in Berlin to have that opportunity with 5th grade in Boylston, right, those additional professional development days need to be thought about again. The calendar, I think, needs to be thought about in a different light. I can very much appreciate, I'll be very blunt, that the planning, we weren't prepared to know what that really looked like and to be effective last year. We also didn't have the support of the specialists in place to facilitate that professional learning, right? This is a different understanding now, right? So we did a one-off year, it maybe wasn't the best, and now it's like, geez, we could have learned from that and implemented, right? So nobody's fault, right? But when we're looking at that calendar for next year, really something to consider, because it takes time, because we have to train, we have to have a whole culture shift in order to get teachers in one another's classrooms. It's a great way, and to be honest, high-performing districts do it, and low-performing districts do it. They take those model classrooms and they learn from one another, but they have a plan based, and they have time. So that's something that I think would be an excellent, and I think they'd be willing, right, if they have that time.
But it's even coverage for that, right? So having that model classroom for people to go and visit while she's teaching, right? We're trying to develop that culture. John and Rod and Renee are doing walkthroughs through our classrooms. But for me to be able to say, honest conversation, the 5th grade teachers in Boylston, we're gonna give you the next 3 hours off, traveling to go sit in that 5th grade classroom in Berlin. We need coverage for that to happen, right? All of that is what we need to take place, but it's gonna cost us money for subs, to be able to hire them for the day and say, okay, 5th grade, you're gonna spend it in here for 3 hours, and 3 hours, let the 4th grade teacher go visit in Boylston, what they're doing well in that 4th grade class. All of this is what we want.
The other piece of this is elementary teachers, I can only speak to elementary teachers, are, as a rule, not forever, but as a rule, uncomfortable holding themselves up as role models. Oh, I'm not that good. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And that 5th grade teacher is a perfect example of, she didn't want me to mention her success rate. Part of the reason that coaching is different than like tutors, highly paid tutors, is that you want coaches who will go in, and I know Mr. Florida has done some of this, and have that difficult conversation that doesn't get back to the boss. It's not evaluative, it's just, hey, you might want to think about using manipulators when you do that lesson. You might want to not go right to the algorithm when you do that lesson. We need people who can kind of speak truth to teachers in a way that they can hear, that they don't find threat. Because that's one of the ways you grow.
But it goes back to the culture, right? Yeah. But like you've heard me say, everybody needs a coach, right? And we're not used to that in our community, right? I used to say Tom Brady even had a coach. Someone's training him, working with them to get them prepared. We're slowly moving in that direction so people can feel comfortable up doing that. Honest conversation though, right? You heard at the last budget, some of our teachers got up and said, what do you want to cut? And they said, cut our coaches, right? Because they don't realize and appreciate the value of them. And they're so important to be able to help our teachers and work with our teachers and work with our admin on that. It's culture, as Renee said.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, Jess,
One
go
more
ahead.
question, Renee. So you mentioned 2013, there's been like a steady decline. And there was we cut some things for ELA.
I don't know that this specific year. We were kind of looking historically, like when did this happen? And I was told probably about when the when the new building came in, there was some, so it could have been, but don't quote me on that.
It's just another interesting coincidence, like if it was around 2013, that's when smartphones started having apps and have algorithms to be more addictive, and phones stopped being tools. So it's just an interesting thing to point out that we don't read as much anymore too.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
So they gave you some good data, you have a lot of data there. If there's specific questions, please email either Renee or John, and we'll sort of get that information and data to you. And just one last clarification, our teachers are all working hard, both at the elementary school, the middle and high school. It just looks a little different, right, what their days look like. But everyone is extremely working hard, and we're starting to see some good results up there, but we need to continue and have a hard look at some of those things that we're not getting success in right now. Thank you, Renee. Thanks, John.
Thank you to all the educators.
Yes?
Al, you have something to say about buses?
Yeah, sorry. So my next thing is just about that Beacon Connect app. I just wanted to give a little clarity about that. I've got a couple of comments on this. So we finally got that app in place. I should say the bus company finally got that app in place. It's called Beacon Connect app. The app tracks the bus, not the individual students. Okay, it tracks the bus.
But I guess one of the things that we heard, and we had to look into it with Joe and myself and Aaron and Jen, you're given one number, right? That's the first number they call in terms of where you can program in when you're going into Beacon Connect Ed. They drew that information, we shared with them Power School information. Power School, when you're putting your information in Power School, we don't control this, let me be clear about that. They ask for the father's name first, then the mother's name second. It's just the way Power School is set up across this country. So when we gave that information to Beacon Connect, the first number that was drawn was the father's number. So there is nothing else there besides the information from Beacon. And I know parents were asking us, why is it my husband's or the father and not the mother? Just as the way it came through Power School. Joe, am I missing anything with that? Aaron, am I missing anything with that?
No, just if people have issues, use the Beacon Connect email.
Right.
That's your first line with them.
And everyone received home, as well as all of you received as school committee, this app that came through that we shared out. It's really, they're the first line. If there's any issues, if they're not getting resolved with that, then certainly let our principals and our admin assistants know about that. But really, they're the ones to be calling. But so far, we've sort of, ironed out those little things here.
What's the significance of the telephone number? Is that who's called in case of emergency?
So-
How you get a number?
That's how you sign up.
So everyone realized, like, all the moms got on and were like, as the primary phone number, but the first number that was in the system was all of the dads.
Yeah, they
And
couldn't
it
get,
had
they
to
couldn't
do
get
a
into the app with
verification
that,
code
their
too.
number.
Yeah, so it all went through the Power School, and it just drew the dad's number first on that. Okay? And that's my report to school committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, up next, Jess, do you have an update for your subcommittee?
No, I think we've not discussed another meetings. We're waiting for the superintendent search to be.
Megan?
Yeah, we met and we talked about the SRO or potential for an SRO. So the majority of the meeting was a public comment session. And then we kind of left it as Al let us know that I guess there was a survey question on the district improvement plan survey that went out that was asking families, community members how they felt about an SRO. So we're hoping to get some feedback off of that. But really no resolutions drawn, just a lot of information given. Both police chiefs spoke, both are in favor of it, and the public comment was mixed. There was some in favor, some not in favor. The admin team was not in favor for the reason of the budget and just the funding. So at the end of the day, I think it's something that we can, decide if we put something in the budget, but really I think it kind of is something that has to go through the towns.
Did you get a number on how much that would be?
He did not present a number, right? No, they had all different ideas. So one of the ideas was, to do we talked about a phased approach. So maybe you just do something part-time. In Berlin, I guess they have a DARE officer, which is Officer Goody. He comes in and he does a DARE program at the Berlin Elementary School. We don't have that in Boylston, so we talked about maybe pricing that out. But one of the things we did draw the conclusion of was that in Boylston, it had to go through the town budget. That was how the Boylston chief was adamant that it needed to be something that was on the town budget and worked out with the town, and then they would bill the school district back for that. So there were no prices discussed at that meeting.
So the police said they would bill the school for the time that they put in?
That was how Boylston had framed that if the town agreed to fund an SRO. The point was he wanted the officer to be on the town's budget in the event that if, obviously the school leadership changes, he doesn't want that position to be at the whim of the school committee or the schools. He wants that position to be reporting in through the police and, part of the police budget.
Regarding the billing back to the school, did you get a number for that amount?
There were no numbers discussed. It was literally just I think it was more to get information from the police chiefs on how it would work and if they were interested and gauge if the public is actually interested. And honestly, it was mixed. So I think we ended it with taking a look at the survey before we decide if it's an item that we want to advocate for.
Let me clarify with Chief Shartner that the school is not paying for Officer Goody. This is, so what we would be asking for is through the town. So and then we discussed that even replicating the whole situation is just not even an option.
Right, and I don't think Aaron would have to sit and work to get a number, because this person would do training on the police side, right? So those hours and the individual could work for the police force. They're not gonna be working full-time for the school district. It would be, school hours or whatever's needed. So they'd have to figure out if they do it on an hourly rate or how that's worked out. That would have to be something that was sparsed out. But I think the first step is going back to, is this something that towns are able to put on their budget? And is this?
Firming up what we're asking.
Yes.
Specifically, like, what are we asking for? Because you can't price something if we don't know what we're.
Right, and we need to
asking
gauge the
for.
interest in the community. I mean, it's just kind of worked out perfectly that Renee and Lisa, I guess, I had no idea that was on the survey. Because somebody asked, somebody in public comment actually said, why don't we survey and see if there actually is interest? We did a forum before, and she said, there was very little parent turnout. So, and then Lisa said, hey, it's already on the survey that went out.
So
It hasn't gone out yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're finalized, so we haven't had a second, right, but the last couple of days. So the strategic plan it's set to go out this week, right?
It was
So-
set to go out, yeah.
No,
yeah.
we're ready to have it go out. We're looking for that final front page telling parents about it. But the question is added on there. I gotta thank Lisa, myself, Renee, spent hours and hours going over the questions about and looking at those questions as a parent, as a student, as an alumni, as an admin. But also we had to do a test group of people. So we're not gonna just send out a survey. So we set it out and said, okay, are we having any glitches here? We're working that out as well too. There is a question added about cell phones, right? About getting input on that. Question added on about a school resource officer. Because we're hearing from pockets. We had a meeting on a Thursday or Tuesday at 5:00, right? We had a small group of people show up. Let's really see what our community feels about this, and all that data will be helpful for us with climate, and culture, and everything that goes on with strategic planning.
Also, so like Goody's providing like DARE, and so I'm curious, Boylston used to have a DARE officer back in the 90s, and so I'm curious, is there a separate question?
Yeah, so just for clarity, I could be out of my lane here, right? There's no DARE anymore, right? He's using.
He just used that term.
Yeah, so DARE hasn't been
I
around.
don't think,
So
what is it actually called? Do you know, John?
I think he's using the DARE curriculum still, which is fine, but there's really no DARE
There's no
curriculum.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
But
no
he's just
t-shirt.
going in and, he's definitely going in and giving a program or something like that at BMS. So we did talk about, I left it with John that, or the police chief from Boylston, is there a potential to do something like that in Boylston as well? Again, obviously the school committee would have to approve that and want that, but all that would filter through the town budget. That would not come back to the school's budget if they went and did something at the elementary school. That would be on the police budget, which is what the chief wants.
And I spoke to both town managers, right? And the message to me and sharing with you guys is, what are you taking off the plate, right? So what else, here wise that we're looking for adding on. But I think the first thing to, like everyone said, let's get that survey out, get some feedback from everybody in the entire community, what they feel about having a school resource officer in our schools, a true school resource officer. And if that's not what you want, is there some sort of other method to look at? And we really phrased the question well, so to get parent input on it. But it is the question that's added on that strategic plan survey.
Can people free type responses on that? Or
Yes,
is it,
there is a spot to free response on a lot of things.
so people should, if people feel strongly about things, that's a perfect forum for
Agreed.
people to, if they're unable to make the school committee meetings or they don't feel comfortable writing an email, this is a perfect forum.
Agreed. We spent hours and hours going over each question to make sure
Yeah.
we're able to really get the pulse of what's going on in our community. So we're not just having these one-offs here or there, people saying, all these people feel this way, here's an opportunity, right? We want that. We even did that with our strategic plan, even to do a SWOT analysis. We need people to show up for those things and give us feedback. So we didn't have many people show up, as we know. Very limited amount of people showed up for the strategic plan. Renee, not to put you on the spot, but how many people?
For the community forum,
Yeah,
maybe 12,
for our home. And educators, how many?
6.
Educators?
6. So we're hearing that all this stuff is happening out here from school committee, right? This is all happening. People are feeling this way. We need your input. So we get, maybe people couldn't attend those strategic planning meetings that we had them at night. We had them every event that we possibly could after school, different locations. So now we're gonna do the survey. So here's the survey. Please give us your information. Please give us your feedback so we can have that.
Yeah, is the survey anonymous?
It's anonymous to us. It does not go to us.
It goes out through, so it'll go out in several different ways. It will go out through the school kind of, school messenger, like as a blast, but it'll also go out through the town's email databases. So like, for example, if you sign up in Berlin or Boylston to get all the notifications of town meetings, that becomes an email database, right? So it goes out in blasts. I don't think it retrieves the email back. And if it did, it wouldn't come to us. It would go, this is an outside provider, remember? So this is Teaching and Learning Alliance, right? So they're sending the survey. We're not sending it, right?
You can't see who's how. Yeah, so I think this is a great forum for people, if they have thoughts and they aren't comfortable with putting their thoughts in an email or coming and speaking at a meeting or showing up at a meeting, maybe they want them heard anonymously. This is perfect.
Yeah, and we're working with a company that, this is what they do for a living, do surveys, right?
Yeah.
We learned through COVID, the way you write a survey, the way you write a question up, right, might elicit certain responses. This is what they do for a living. We worked on it for hours, we gave it to them, and they're like, okay, let's maybe check this and check this, so we're not looking to get a certain response from people. But we hired this company to work with us, so we'll be, and that cover letter is on me. I'll be working on that tomorrow, so we'll be able to get that out on Wednesday.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Lisa, for that. You did some great work in that.
There's no policy update either. Anyone want to make another public comment, second chance at public comment? Jump up. Come on. Future agenda items. I want to mention one. So a couple weeks ago, Town Administrator Boylston reached out, asked if we could get a meeting for them to tell us about the budget. The dates they threw out didn't work. There were a lot of superintendent search dates overmixed with them. So they also didn't include Berlin in that. So I sent an email to both Berlin and Boylston inviting them to the December 9th meeting, because that's when Aaron is going to be giving us a first look at the budget. Might not be the full budget, but it's a first look, right, according to your schedule. I heard back from Berlin. The town administrator is going to come, possibly some chairs. I haven't heard back from Boylston yet, but I expect to. So they're both invited to the December 9th meeting to talk about the budget.
And like along that, they're
Yes.
budgetarily wise, and the regional agreement wise, they're looking at that budget wise, so they want us to keep revisiting this regional agreement. So I know you said you heard it at one of the town meetings that you went to or heard, like this is a conversation that's happening. They want us to be looking at this regional agreement as we should.
Do you think?
Yeah, I just want to mention again, I mentioned last time about January Community Night, Anxious Generation and cell phones. I just want to kind of put it again back on the agenda in December, for hopefully after the superintendent search has ended for a January event to hopefully catch parents, maybe 5th grade or 4th grade before spring and looking towards going up to the middle school, think about cell phones.
And I would just add to that, one of the things that we're learning about and working on, we're not even near AI, right? So we haven't even talked about that as a school committee. There's a lot of school committees, and hopefully these next couple of days, we're going to learn a lot more about it, about policies that we're going to be asking school committee to come up with artificial intelligence. I know they have some conversations that are happening with Renee and Lisa, but the kids are further ahead with AI than we are right now, and we really need to be looking at that. It's not going away. So how
I mean,
we
the state has a task force as well that's
Yeah.
working on things too.
Business items. Could I have a motion for the approval of the graduation requirements?
So moved.
Megan?
Second.
Lori? This was in the drive. Same. Al, do you want to give a little note on this? This was the first read last time.
I know she presented, I said Chip.
This was the first read from last time.
It was the first read
Yep.
from last month, yep. Is there any change from what was given to us for the first read, Lisa?
So I think I did submit a letter identifying the graduation requirements without the MCAS requirement. So it really is a decision between, do you want to retain the MCAS as a requirement, or do you not want to retain the MCAS? So there are two proposals. If we retained MCAS as a graduation requirement, we would be the only district in the Mid-Watch to do so because of the vote, the November vote. We retained it because we knew that it would impact anybody who was graduating. And so we were bringing this forward, at this time. And so that's really the difference.
In your recommendation?
And my recommendation is to not have it, because currently on the docket for the state, the governor is putting forth information on EOCs and of course exams, as opposed to having MCAS. So that is the legislation that's coming down the line.
All right, so the letter you gave us does say your recommendation is to exclude MCAS. That's what the motion was for. That's what the vote is for.
To approve that letter.
What's that?
To approve her letter.
To approve
As-
the graduation requirements, which she is suggesting would exclude
Okay.
MCAS.
Perfect.
So a vote yes is to remove MCAS from graduation requirements. Any questions, Lisa?
And just clarity, we're still gonna be giving the MCAS, the importance of still of that. We need to make sure all of our students and families take it. It will be a data point, right? And scholarships that go along with it. In the money that comes to us from the federal government because of that, the John Adams and Abigail Adams scholarships that go along with that.
Make sure your kids know it's still important and it'll pay off farther down the line.
That's right. And that's why when they're sitting for that MCAS, that they realize it's still important.
All right, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against it? Okay, the motion passes. The approval of the new math program, are we calling this the new math program, or what are we calling this?
Joey, you want to join us, Pia?
Okay.
Anyone? We're not calling it the new math program though, Joey, right?
Yeah, what are we approving?
iReady.
What are we approving?
iReady.
iReady. Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the adoption of the iReady math program? All right, Beth and Lori, got it. Everybody, I think you guys got a chance to take home some materials, take a look at them. Math scholars want to talk about them? No?
I trust you. You guys did a lot of work and I trust all the work that you guys put into it, so.
I will say we had a chance to look at it today with the full staff, and so I've presented to a couple of committees at this point. So you've heard my spiel about how we really tried to make sure that it was from the ground up. We had the teachers make the rubric. We had the committee look at the rubric to measure all of these. We started with Curate, which is the status that you have to pick from this program in order to apply for certain grants, and that's only going to be widened as we go further. I think the things that really, the takeaways for me were that we had kindergarten through fifth grade all unanimously behind this program. Then when we took it to the middle school and high school, we had them look at it. They also were supporting it. They felt it was more in line with the way that they expected the students to reach them. So for me, if I could get kindergarten and high school to agree on the same program, felt like it was a good match. I think it really, you guys talked about the reading and writing up there a lot. This program really puts a lot more emphasis on the student discourse. Something we've talked about in PDs in the years past is about taking sort of the traditional approach of the teacher being in the front of the room and talking for the whole time. It really spends a lot of time removing that piece and having the students talking to each other and having the students explore and learn. So for that many people today, we did a PD with all of the teachers, giving them a chance to explore it. And overall, it felt really, really positive. There were a lot of really good comments, people really digging into it and looking. So they they seem excited, and that's always a good feeling when you get people excited about math. So overall, I think and I followed up the comedian, so it was not an easy sell. But I think overall, if that many people are excited about it, there's really, because I've had the math committee, the teachers who served on that as active participants, they were going around and asking questions. So we had a lot of engagement with it, which was great to see.
Awesome.
Nicely done today. Thank you. Final comments? All right. The motion is on the table, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against it? All right, that motion passes.
So what that means,
Those
we'll
teachers
be-
some math.
we'll be working with
Congrats.
Aaron to put that in the budget, so you'll see that come now that you approve this math program. Again, you don't approve individual books, but when you're doing a curriculum across the entire district, we want the approval of our school committee and teachers, obviously, and then we'll be going to the budget process and seeing about being able to afford that and put it in the budget. Thank you.
These next two items, Al, are you suggesting these to be done separately or as one because they are embedded in each other?
I would hope, well, we'd like to do it as one because it is the student handbook, right? We know that there was a little conversation, I'll say little, about the athletic handbook piece of it. We heard public comment today as well too. We've had a number of meetings with coaches as well too. We appreciate, we had a meeting here recently with all of our coaches that were invited with our athletic director. Lisa, if you want to join us up here as well too. All of our coaches, including Beth Mancini, by the way, who is one of our volunteer coaches who coaches cheerleading. And by the way, just for the record, because I've heard, right, small community, she doesn't get paid. It's volunteer. She did all the ethics and reported it. There was no conflict of interest. So we received that information both to the chairman and myself. So I'm sorry you had to go through all that whole process to do that for a volunteer job, that you had to go do all that even with the attorney. So thank you for doing that. But we had a chance to meet all of our coaches together and give feedback, and we came with a unanimous decision, and Lisa's going to share it. So to answer your question, we'd like to approve it all in one month.
Yeah, you could have just said yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I had to get that in about Beth Mancini as well too.
Thank you for the details. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Lisa, before you go
Yes.
ahead, so it's listed on here twice. That's why I asked the question here. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the Tohoto Student Handbook and Athletic Handbook, which is embedded in the student handbook together as presented in the single document that we have available.
So moved.
Megan,
Second.
I heard Lori first, sorry. Lisa, quick update. What are we doing? What's the big change
So the big.
on page 39?
I'm trying, okay, so here on the
Yeah.
athletic handbook,
It's 89.
on page 9.
Yes, 89.
89, 90. So it's really about the process, putting in place the process for participation for middle school students. And I think that was something that was lacking. Previously, we only had a very small section that said 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students are expected to try out for middle school team. They may try out for JV if there isn't a middle school team or instructed to do so by the coach. So there wasn't a process in place. And so building culture for an athletic program and trying to move in a direction where there are more guidelines in terms of, how sports participation is managed is important. So we sat as a group and identified an appropriate process through which this could happen, in making sure that students are academically, physically, and emotionally ready to participate in sports at the middle school level, and what level they should be playing at, because we see that there's very different circumstances, and the circumstances have changed because of so many club sports. And so we really had to put in place a process because there are so many, there's so many different teams, there's so many different situations that we can't dictate every single sport. We can't say, these people can play at this sport and not this sport. We just had to have a process, and including coaches, parents, administration, athletic director.
So that process is on page 90 here, and to summarize it, like you just said, 6th to 8th, expect you to go from middle school, but if those individuals, coach, athletic director, parents, principal are involved, there's potential to play up. It's laid out here on page 90. And so that's what we're approving right now.
Can I just ask one question? I noticed under D, roster protection, it says no upperclassmen grades 9 through 12 may be cut from a JV team to make room for middle school student. Did you not include varsity because it's such a rarity that a middle school student would play varsity?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you read the document from like
Yes, the top down,
bottom,
yes.
top down, there's like stop gaps in between. So, and that was, I think we all kind of got caught in it when we were talking as a group, but you have to read through the document. The process is a process, like a step process, so you have to read it that way.
That was what I assumed as I went down, but I just wanted to double check
Yes.
because it did, that was my feeling, but.
Right, yes.
And we finally have a process that we're trying to get in place, right? So, and we need to make sure our high school principal is involved with that process, as well as the parents and our athletic director, not just the coach making any decision. No one should be making any decision in isolation, but getting team involvement on that.
Any other comments on it?
Yeah, I was curious. So like up number 3, A3, it says parent guardian notification and approval before they try out. But then under B, like playing up halfway through the season, it doesn't say parent or guardian approval. So I'm curious.
Because the tryouts would be approved.
So that particular individual would have had to have the approval to try out. They weren't originally chosen, but then halfway through, then that could change. Okay, all right, so there's still parent approval for that.
It's that whole September column. Baseball fans.
It goes back to what our parents said, right? Like every child's different.
All right. Any other questions on it?
Yeah, Beth, I mean, you were there. Do you feel like the coaches, this is?
I could only stay for an hour, so
Oh, okay.
the real meat, I feel like took place after I had it.
It was
So then
very
Lisa,
it was very collaborative. We really, it was the first time, I believe, that so many coaches were in the same room. And it was a really meaty conversation, a much needed conversation. And we also walked away with understanding that, what different levels of coaching were feeling about the process, what different sports were feeling, because it's very different.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking cross-country or track and field, it's very different than when you're talking
Contact sports.
Well, even the baseball coach, right? He's
Right.
like, I don't want my student pitching to a 6th grader, right? I'm standing on that, right? So it was.
So, and I think that was important, and we came to realize that there has to be more of those conversations and really developing programs based on what we're seeing in sports. So if we see that there's this really, large influx of students who want to play soccer, then, how do we manage that? We want everybody. So what are we looking to do as a group?
There were ebbs and flows in that meeting for certain, right? Lisa facilitated a really good meeting along with the other administrators as well too, and our athletic director, so thank you for that.
All right, anyone else?
So I'm curious, so like at the end, was this kind of like the draft that was?
Yeah. This was,
Okay.
we were
Typing
They're
it.
just doing it in real
as-
time, and the editor made.
And then I'm like,
Right.
oh,
Okay.
because everybody agreed on this. Did everybody agree on this? Are we?
Yeah.
I mean, it was very.
Each word,
like that.
like we went
Right.
bullet by bullet.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nice job facilitating that.
You did.
Anything else, Jess?
No, I just, you know, we
Anybody
get a lot
else?
of public comments, and so it's good to know.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against it? Okay, the motion passes. Next is the nature's classroom dates.
Yep, so I know there was a conversation last time about first the financial fund, thanks Lisa, financial fundraising for Nature's Classroom. This is to approve the dates for Nature's Classroom. It's May 19th, which is a Tuesday we start our line, and the last day is May 22nd, which is a Friday of 2026. So it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's obviously happening in Charlton, Mass, but we're asking because it's an overnight field trip for you guys to approve that on the record, and then we'll have Mike, you sign off as the chair, approving an overnight field trip, which all school committees have to approve first and then signed off by the chair.
Al, if we don't approve these dates, are there other options?
No. So we learned a lesson. We booked the dates ahead of time, as John said, because they book up fast. So we really just need you to approve these if we could.
Could I have a motion to approve the Nature's Classroom dates for May 19th, 2026 through May 22, 2026?
So moved.
Jess?
Second.
Megan? Any questions on that? All right, all in favor? Anyone against it? All right, that's approved. The BES roof, Aaron, could you come up and talk to us about this?
Sure thing. So you have a memo from me. I was at a meeting of the Boylston Select Board on October 14th. The discussion was around the proposal from the designer and the contractor to replace the BES roof. The Select Board was in favor of doing the full project. You'll see highlighted in yellow. The $4,113,000, whoops, sorry, I took my glasses off as I shouldn't have. $4,113,068. That would be done through a combination of MSBA funding and a debt exclusion bond that the town would take out. So you're looking at about 50%, give or take. It's probably 52% might be picked up by MSBA. That final calculation will come and they figured all of that out. But this does include some contingency money. You know, the next challenge is going to be, this is going to have to go to town meeting and then to a vote by the residents of Boylston. It wouldn't impact Berlin as it would sit on Boylston's books for capital.
So Aaron, even if we approve this, it's not a done deal. It's got to go through town meeting, just town meeting? Are they doing a separate
Town
meeting for the
and then
bond?
they're for a debt exclusion bond, you would need a town meeting, then an actual election. So the.
Right, so it's like last year.
Valid.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah,
valid
but
in May. Yep.
Yeah.
Just like the fire station, it's gonna be
Yeah.
the same exact thing.
Right.
So was it always this number, 4 million? The roof?
It's been this number since, so I mean, this hasn't gone back, I know this goes back quite a ways, the roof. This proposal came out in early September. So this is why, you know, it went to the town of Boylston. April and I have been back and forth a couple times about, you know, whether this would be something the select board would support. And interestingly, we took it with these alternates. We wanted to give them some options to look at. They were pretty much set to go the full, if we're gonna do it, let's just do the whole thing. Let's do it right. This will the roof will be PVC, which is a higher grade material. It is easier to patch. You actually somehow weld it rather than patch it. I don't know much about PVC roofs. April seemed a little more knowledgeable than me, but it's a cleaner process to patch the roof.
And this is both Boylston Select Board and Finance Committee are good with this number?
I believe so. Well, this was a select board meeting, so I don't know.
So I'm trying to get at, if we approve this number tonight, are they gonna come back and yell at us and say, no, what are you doing, that's crazy?
Select board already approved it, but I don't think
I don't-
this isn't a number that we have to approve. I think they just want, we have an option. This is the MSBA. This is so this is through the state. If we don't do this, it's their decision if they do less. But there was a lesser quote, but it wasn't through the MSBA, and it wasn't to do the full roof, it was to just like put a resurface in, and then we'd have to pay for that ourselves, which would be about $1.5 million. So it'd be about the same. This, we get $2 million from the state, or $2 million and change from the state. The other one, the town would have to pay.
So when it comes to our budget vote for town meeting, does any of this get into our budget that we approve, that if that doesn't pass at town, if the roof doesn't pass at town meeting, the whole budget doesn't pass at town meeting?
Not directly, no, not the operating budget. So if anything, this would hit some of the capital considerations. But again, so there's conversation about, this would be taken into consideration as part of our capital. But I mean, realistically, our needs are our needs, right? The conversation was.
Even if the capital doesn't pass at town meeting.
If the boiler goes, the boiler needs to be replaced. I mean, that's an amount that the town's gonna have to come up with. So, it's also a debt exclusion bond, so it's not necessarily gonna hit their excess cash and things like that.
I think it's on the town budget, Mike, to answer your question.
Yeah,
That's
so
not
it's
gonna be on our
gonna
capital.
say-
It's gonna be on the town budget, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So this isn't gonna affect passing the school budget?
No.
Adjusting the school budget,
No.
whatever needs to get passed?
No.
Be a different warrant, right?
It's a different warrant item.
Yes.
It's gonna be its own
So
warrant item.
it'll
on
be
the warrant.
separate, okay.
Yep.
And we just wanted to make sure that you knew about it, and what they asked us to do was to put it in front of you guys for a vote. They wanted to make sure that you guys knew what was going on with this.
This is supporting.
That's right.
Doing the full project. They voted.
Just wanna make sure we're not shooting ourselves in
They
the
took a
foot
positive
in
vote.
May.
No, they want us to be in alignment when it goes to town meeting,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's not like, oh, well, the schools didn't want this, but we did, or, oh, well, the schools wanted it, but we didn't. They want everyone in alignment, and this is what they decided they wanted to do. So this is I think it's the best case scenario for the school.
Without getting ahead of myself, I would imagine the schools want it, but at
I
the expense
personally
of literacy coaches and other teachers and 2 high school teachers, that's what I'm trying, but it's a separate thing?
Yep.
Cool.
Separate, and we're getting $2 million from the state on this.
Right.
So if you're thinking about it like that, this is the only, if you don't,
So going for 2 million from the town and 2 million from, give or take.
but if you pass upon this opportunity,
You lose that,
you
so
use the MSBA.
you would never want to give up money coming from the state, right? No
Free
matter what
money.
it is, free money, comes in
It's a
from the
lot of
state.
free
We don't
money.
want
Let's be clear though, that free money, we've been working really hard for the amount of paperwork with April, myself, and I mean, this is
it all
like,
free, Alex.
it's nothing's free, let's be very clear about this.
Probably quarter of Al
The amount of signatures and, certified information it's been a lot of work to get this.
So Aaron, you have a recommendation here, so could I have a motion, please, to confirm our school committee's intent to pursue the proposed full Boylston Elementary School roof project through MSBA in a total estimated cost of $4,113,068 in conjunction with the October 14, 2025 affirmative vote of the Town of Boylston Select Board.
So second.
Lori, Megan. Okay, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against it? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Next is another executive session. We're going to go to executive session. We will not return to open session. There is no vote, but there is an update. Executive session pursuant to, may I have a motion to enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, BBRSD custodial staff, Teamsters Local 170. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
So moved.
Megan.
Second.
Lori. Roll call, Lisa.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Jess.
Aye.
All right, we're going to go into executive session. Thank you.